All right, good morning, everyone. My name is Harry Marr. I'm an investment manager here at Sharewise, and welcome to another webinar, Sharewise webinar. Today, we are joined by Nouveau Monde CEO Eric Desaulniers. Good morning to you, Eric, or good afternoon for Canada.
Yeah, good evening now, pretty soon.
Yeah, exactly right. Today, we're going to have a presentation from Eric, a bit about NMG's contribution to the clean energy transition and their plan to be North America's largest integrated natural graphite producer. So that'll be very exciting. I've prepared some questions. I know some of our registrants have already submitted some questions for all attendees here today. If you have any questions throughout, just put them in the Q&A box below and we'll be sure to get to them towards the end of the webinar. And as usual, this webinar is recorded. So if you can't watch the whole live viewing, it will be on our YouTube channel. So without further ado, Eric, over to you. I look forward to hearing your presentation.
Fantastic. Thanks for having me, Harry, and good morning in Australia. Happy for you. It's summer over there. It's -20 here in Canada. Snowstorm overnight, it's coming. So fantastic. I'm just thinking about Australia now, and my life is nicer. Great. So Nouveau Monde Graphite, a company that we started in 2011. So I'm the founder and CEO. And really the idea of Nouveau Monde Graphite, it's to build a full vertical from mining all the way to the finished product that those cell factories need and need badly now in North America. So this is two major projects that we're building, a big mine that we'll talk about, and the big transformation project. So indeed, I'll be, hopefully you can see my screen. I'll be making forward-looking statement in this presentation. Please read carefully this warning we have on our website. Basically, what we do and why it's important for the North American cell makers is very important to have a fully vertically integrated project. So they don't want to have the product going like a concentrate leaving Canada, going in China to be transformed and come back here. So what we are proposing them, it's in a radius of 150 kilometers, being able to have a very cost competitive mining project, very good geology, very good ore body, the Matawini mine, but then transforming thanks to our local infrastructure, hydroelectricity, very affordable, and all the reagents and all the talents we need here in Canada, into an anode material. It is a very specialized material, and now we are close to them, kind of in their backyard in North America. So having a full vertical outfit like that allow us to be cost competitive, controlling the quality, security of supply, and all the great thing that having a local supplier for logistic purpose is allowing us to propose our customers. So this value proposition is very important. For the people who don't know yet, graphite really matters. Natural graphite or synthetic graphite, it's always a blend of both products together. It depends a lot on the customer, but it's always around 1 kilogram of graphite per kilowatt hour of battery capacity. So give or take, a 40 gigawatt hour battery plant needs about 40,000 tons of anode material. So basically what we're planning to do in our phase 2, that is currently starting construction, we can serve about one large gigafactory like that with our 42,000 ton per annum anode material capacity we're planning to build in the phase 2. So it's a lot of volume of graphite. It's quite important in the current situation of energy transition for sure. So how we are offering this to our customer, we have 3 main assets all located in Canada. The one that you see there in blue are in close proximity to Montreal. So that's a big strand of our project, is to be tapping into the existing infrastructure. So the Matawini mine, it's 2 hours north driving of Montreal. That's where we are currently starting construction activities to build a 100,000 ton per annum concentrator to produce concentrate of graphite. That all of it will be shipped into Bécancour battery material plant, where it will be transformed. It's 2 hours drive, give or take, to be transformed into anode material at the specification of our primary customers. And then we acquired The only other mining project that was very advanced in North America, in our view, we call it the Watnan mining project. We acquired this asset from Mason Graphite to build something 5 times the size in the future. It's a much larger deposit. It's probably the largest here in North America. And we're planning like a 500,000 ton concentrator to be built after we have finished construction of Matawini and Bécancour. So that's really our situation in the French part of Canada and Quebec, very close to the border in the US. So good option for our customer in terms of location. So something very important for our customer and for us is having de-risked the project. So since 2017, we are running a small phase 1 capacity, but that's a very large. It's a demonstration plant. We can produce up to 2,000 tons per annum of anode material. So a lot of the equipments that we're using in that demonstration plant in the phase 1 is identical to what we will use in the phase 2. So that's something that was very valuable for our customer to do all the qualifying samples and also making sure that we design a phase 2 based on solid ground. We know exactly the engineering. We know how those equipments behave. So the phase 1 was quite important. We invested like north of 150 million only in the phase 1 and learning this. While we are permitting the phase 2 and we're making the feasibility study of the phase 2, and that's the execution that will provide profitability to the company, hopefully by 2028 when we get into full-scale production. And then we have the growth phase that is also very important because all those customers have growth ambition. They want to build more battery plant. So we have this growth phase to, once they have invested a lot of resource in human and in dollar in us in the phase 2, they want to see us growing with them. So that's the Watnan mining project. So this sequencing is quite important. ESG matters a lot because we're in direct contact with our cell maker. So having a tier 1 ranking amongst all our peers is quite important. We're a bit sad to see that amongst 60 different producers in graphite, there's only us who's in good practice industry leading. So hopefully we can raise the bar in the future ESG report coming from benchmark. But it's a good advantage for us. It's a differentiator at the same price than a typical OPEX you can see in Africa or Asia. Thanks to our hydroelectricity primarily, but other initiatives as well, we can offer this ESG ranking to our customer. It explains a little bit our shareholding. We have a lot of large institutions, tier 1 institutions. As you see there, Quebec government is a large shareholder. Canada Growth Fund is a Canadian equity investors. They made their first mining investment recently, just before the holidays. And they are now a significant shareholder alongside a lot of the battery market participants. As you see here, GM, Panasonic, Mitsui, all large investors alongside Pallinghurst, who's invested since 2019 in our company. So we are well supported by strategics. We really need this project to move forward to supply their plant in North America. But also we're listed in NYSE and on the main board on the TSX main board in Canada. And we have like north of 100 million of cash on hand. So we're fully financed like to lead the project to the final investment decision in the upcoming months. So Panasonic GM, you know what they're doing with us? They provided a long-term offtake agreement for the phase 2 that we're starting construction. So 18,000 ton of anode material for GM, 18,000 ton going to Panasonic. It represents, give or take, 84% of our future output of the anode material plant we're planning. So that's what we were in. That's what we needed really to convince all the lender to borrow us the money we need to finance this capex, to have skin in the game from the partners, from the customers, and having long-term offtake agreement that provide the bankability that we need for such an important project. So they've made a tranche 1 investment, 25 million each last year, and we're using that money to bring the project to FID in the upcoming months. And they have already committed to a tranche 2 when we are at the FID. So those agreements are quite important to supply them for the anode material to the US plant that they were planning to do. So Nevada, Panasonic Energy is already in business with Tesla since many years. And now they're building a twin plants in Kansas, in DeSoto, Kansas. And that's where we're scheduled to send our material. And GM, they are planning 3 plants, one in Ohio, one in Michigan, and one in Tennessee. Some of them are already operating. So what they've made as an agreement with us is not for future plan to build. It's for plants that are already running and already being commissioned. So the phase 2 is not at risk. It's happening. It's only good like for 500,000 EV, 750,000 EV, give or take. So so last year was a record year in the US in terms of sales of EV. So it's a very small fraction of the overall demand of Panasonic and GM in North America, what they are supplying from us. And you know, one thing very important, I quickly mention it, it's testing your process. This is an engineered material. You need to deliver hundreds of tons to customer to be qualified. That's what we're doing since 2019, 2020, the first anode material sample we delivered to customer. It takes time. You need to have the proper laboratory, the proper scientists in your team. We have over 120 employees now, making sure that we understand those processes and we deliver the tons and specs. So that allowed us to get those off-takers committed to the project. This is very important. And basically the process is quite simple. It's a flotation circuit for concentrating the ore into graphite concentrate. And then 3 process steps: shape the flake into a ball, spherical graphite, purify it close to 100%. And there's very specific impurities we need to get rid of. And then we coat it to make sure we reduce the surface area with a small carbon coating. So it's a process that exists. We just need to make sure we develop the relationship with the customer, and there are very specifics on the type of product they want, and we make sure we do battery grade engineering around all of this. So this is exactly what we're doing now to update this feasibility study that was delivered 2 years ago. So that's the 43-101 that we've published in 2022. That includes the economic of both the Matawinie mine and the Bécancour battery material plant, showing like after-tax IRR of 21%, very sensitive to pricing. And that's exactly the economics that will update in a few weeks. It will be delivered to the market. So based on the offtake that we have with the customers, based on the support that we had in the last year from their favorite supplier, I would say, we are updating this feasibility study to make sure that it's the final sketch of the project before we finance it in the upcoming months with all the different lenders and stakeholders we have. A few pictures quickly on the project. So the Matawinie mine, that's the one 2 hours north of Montreal. Today is full of snow, but we can go anyway. But that's a picture from last summer. It's ready to pour concrete. It's ready to erect the big concentrator you see at the bottom right. And that's pretty much ready to go. The 75% detail engineering done. And, you know, it's about, I would say, 32 months of construction and commissioning. So 2.5 years after FID, we'll be able to start delivering this 100,000 ton per annum concentrate to the market. And all of it will be shipped this other side 2 hours away into Bécancour. You see at the top the St. Lawrence Seaway, and it's already a large industrial park where there's a lot of activities. And that's where also we were running our phase 1 plant in an established facility there owned by Olin, which is our chloralkali supplier. So they greatly, nicely allowed us to set up our phase 1 plant into their facility that we're running since few years already. So you see a large aluminum smelter. You see, so Olin will provide the caustic, also the chlorine that we need, but also Air Liquide will provide the nitrogen right there that we need for coating line. We have as much electricity as we need. We receive all our block of energy, so it's a perfect location in terms of infrastructure to build a low-cost project and having everything around us. So you have also the rail car right there on the land to receive some entrance and also ship the material to customer. So that's a great location. And that's the same location like neighboring us. You see the GM Pasco plant that is now much more advanced than that. They finished the CAM facility that should be starting in the next few months. And now they're building the PCAM. So that's GM Pasco. Right beside them, you have Nemaska Lithium, who's building their big project. And across the street, you have EcoPro and Eskeon, who's also building a cathode material plant. So there's a lot of investment that was made on the cathode side. And we're the only one on the anode side in Canada building a big facility like that in the same area. So it's a very interesting to tap in this capacity that was built in construction around us. And the lesson learned from all our partners in the park are very interesting for us just before intensifying our construction activities in the upcoming months. So a few words on the market. Today, it's all coming from China. It's more than 2/3 of the flake comes from China, the concentrate itself. However, it's close to 100% of the battery-grade anode material currently comes from there. It's a big issue. It's the most geopolitical of all commodities, and we need an alternative for the North American supply chain, at least one, in case something bad happens. So that's something that is very important for our customer now that they are building big factory in North America. So there is flake in Africa, flake in Brazil, but having the full vertical in the same place, that's really what we provide the market. We spoke a bit about our customer. They have great ambition, but there's a lot of other customers as well in Canada and in the US, and it represents, give or take, 1.5 terawatt-hour of battery capacity, meaning it's about 1.5 million ton a year of anode material eventually. But if you're very pessimist, you can divide that by 5. If you're optimistic, you divide that by 2. But it's still a huge number that will be required in North America and in Europe as well. Slightly lower number, but it's very large capacity that need to be built in both locations. So this is for phase 3. Phase 2 is very well allocated already with current existing plant, but the future will tell how big we are building our phase 3 to supply both North America and Europe. Yeah, because overall, 30%, give or take, of the demand is in the Western world, 70% plus, and growing even faster in China. But it's huge number for graphite. So if a significant percentage of all those gigafactory get built, like it will be a huge number. But we all know that it's about execution now. It's making sure that we deliver those tons to the market and generate profitability. Because we all see a supply shortage coming for graphite and all other battery materials, and especially in North America. So in China, they were fast at building graphite supply because they do have the flake internally and they have a head start at understanding the technologies there, but in no supply. So that's a big change. So for us to establish pricing in North America, when we allow our customer to save on logistics, to have a carbon neutral product, and also to use this cheaper electricity here. So it's all huge advantage, and without tariffs as well. We all know China will have a 25% tariff on graphite starting in the next few years. Now they have a 10% more on this. So that's quite impactful on the balance sheet. So North America situation is clear that we need to build more graphite supply, while in China they have enough. Yeah, so obviously, recently, Panasonic Energy, a few months ago, even January 7th, like a month ago, they reiterated to the market that their number one objective is to diversify from China, explaining a bit, what they do with us. and China reacting like by tightening a lot the graphite export to the rest of to the US specifically. And the US graphite firms recently, they submit a case to the US International Trade Commission that was accepted for future review to not only charge like 25 plus 10% to the Chinese supply of graphite, but instead evaluating making over 900% to make up for the cheap dumping that is made there. So it's currently being evaluated. We'll see where it goes. It's only for US potential suppliers to do that. We're not involved in this, but that's quite interesting to see the dynamic in the US. And sales are very good. Like if you look the sales of EV, 1.3 million EV were sold in the US last year. So the thing we look all at Tesla, that our sales are stable or going down slightly, but now GM, one of our main customer, GM, like they have fantastic sales. They have now many models, and it's a great car. So, and there's a lot of options for consumer in the US. And last year, 1.3 million EV cars sold in the US, while in the world, 17 million EVs. So it's growing big time. So yeah, it's not a huge hockey stick anymore, but it's a bigger number that is growing year after year. At least it gives us time to build projects like ours to make up for the supply need. Next step for us is really to deliver this updated feasibility study to support all the discussion we're having with different stakeholders in our project financing, governmental institution, ECAs, export credit agencies, alongside our current investors, Investissement Quebec, Canada Growth Fund, Pallinghurst, the customer, Panasonic Energy and GM, Mitsui. All together, we have received 4 billion Canadian dollar of letter of interest that now we need to close into a formalized binding agreement to close this project financing in the upcoming, for sure in 2025. I won't put a date, but that's really a lot of work to close this and get going in the construction in the upcoming quarters. And also maybe we have an investment tax credit now in Canada that represent 30% of our eligible CapEx. For us, it represents about 350 million Canadian that will be reimbursed once we spend it. So that's quite interesting as well in our financial. Yeah, so that's the reason why we are very supported by the customer is having great geology here locally, very close proximity to infrastructure like the hydro and other stuff we need, great talents in Quebec who knows about electrochemistry, about this specific product that is needed by customer, and customer in our backyard that are badly in need of that product to diversify their supply chain to fulfill their ambition and make up for the anode side of the battery now that they have invested a lot on the cathode and a lot on the cell making itself. They need graphite as well. So that's what we offer them. So that's it. That's a quick intro on NMG, Harry. Happy to have your questions.
Perfect. Thank you, Eric. I think that was a very comprehensive presentation. It gave a very good snapshot of the business, the company, obviously the goals and upcoming activity as well. So it all looks very exciting. The first two questions I'll ask are mostly related to competition. As you mentioned in the presentation, I think China accounts for about 95% of anode graphite material, and I think it's around 77% of global graphite output. What are Quebec and Canada's advantages in terms of operating expenses compared to Chinese products? And what would that mean for NMG's CapEx as well?
Yeah, so for sure, CapEx in North America is more expensive than China in general. You know, so CapEx, but we also have a lot of support from our local partners to support this CapEx. And why they do such a supportive measures on CapEx, it's because everyone see the OPEX will be very resilient with China. And why is that? First of all, the geology, as I've mentioned, we're able to produce 1 ton of concentrate at below $450 per ton. So that's quite competitive to produce 1 ton of concentrate, and that ton of concentrate is very close to its transformation point. So we can move in bulk the concentrate to the transformation plant in Bécancour using very cheap hydroelectricity that is around 4 cents all in kilowatt hour. So that's very competitive and even lower than China. So having this close proximity to between the two sites and also the close proximity to customer to shave on freight cost and on logistic, all that, the OPEX of the project will be very competitive with our friend in China. And if without consideration on tariffs, because we believe those tariffs may or may not last forever and they are always changing. There's always different dynamics on tariff, as we know now. But one thing fundamental is our government understands that we will be resilient long-term in this graphite business in a similar way that we are resilient on aluminum. We have 9 of the 10 aluminum smelter in Canada located in Quebec. We have a lot of output of aluminum. It's an energy intensive process. Like graphite processing is about 25% of our cost is energy. So being located here will be very competitive with what is provided in China once we have built those capex.
Yeah. Okay. And you mentioned the geology in North America can be very competitive. I guess domestically, what are your main competitive advantages that NMG has compared to other potential graphite players in North America?
Yeah, I would say now it's really the head start. So having invested hundreds of millions, being qualified with customer, having customer on board, helping us achieving this, the barrier of entry for any other newer project is very difficult. So there's no alternative for our customer. There's no major producing graphite for them outside of China. So our customer needed to support one horse, I would say, and they choose NMG to be this horse. So it's very strategic what they're sharing with us. They're working on the specification, and we're working closely with them to understand their specs. We don't believe they will do that many times, so they prefer investing in one company and making sure it's growing.
Of course.
So that's our main advantage, I would say.
Yeah. Okay. In your presentation, you went through a bit about the fully vertical integration production model. What do you think is the value added of having such a model?
Yeah, it's a quality control. Having control your costs as well, as I've mentioned, you can move around between sites very easily, and security of supply. Security of supply is major. When we receive a customer or an investor, they can see in a day both project and details. There's a lot of synergies of being all in the same jurisdiction. So all those things matters a lot for customer to not have a concentrate that is shipped around that could be cut in supply in the future, because qualifying the concentrate is as much important as the final product. So you want to make sure you have a very secure and safe supply of both the concentrate and the finished product. So having both in the same location is great.
Of course. Yeah. Okay. And in your presentation, you mentioned that once operations become commercial, you have a 5-year zero emission vision, obviously. Yeah. How important is carbon neutrality to your customers and obviously the vision of the business?
No, that's a very good question. And we needed to understand as well, is it really important for customer or not so much? And what we realize is graphite is less than 10% of the battery cost. So, but it's about 30 to 40% of the carbon impact of the battery. So having one supplier who's fully vertically integrated that provide carbon neutral product, customer can reduce by 30 to 40% their carbon footprint of the battery for an investment that is not so risky because it's less than 10% of the battery cost. So if you follow me, for a small amount, they can reduce a lot their carbon footprint. So for companies like Panasonic Energy and GM, where carbon footprint matter, and they have made commitment to reduce by half their carbon footprint, it's an easy investment in the one company. They can make a big impact. So it matters somehow.
Okay, very good. Very good. And just on synthetic graphite, can you sort of explain a bit more about what that is and how natural graphite and synthetic graphite can complement each other and drive a customer's decision towards, one another?
Yeah, but few things on the production itself. So it's very difficult to have a secure and safe supply of the needle coke that is the right precursor to do a good quality synthetic graphite. They have some in China. It's difficult really to secure the supply outside China. So it's difficult for the synthetic graphite player to set up factory where they don't have as much supply as they would like to be. So that's a coke that comes from the petroleum industry, the fine product at the end that is 1% of the decant oil at the end, so that's something that is at risk long term. It costs more money to produce. There's a bigger impact on carbon footprint, as much as 40% more carbon footprint impact compared natural graphite that is produced like NMG, carbon neutral. So that's all very important, but sometimes this product is necessary for customers. So all customers, they do a blend of natural graphite and synthetic graphite. Synthetic graphite typically has a better cycle life, a better fast charging behavior. However, natural graphite has a better capacity because the crystallinity is better. So the customer have their own recipe. You need to understand your customer. Is it 70-30? Is it 50-50? Is it 80-20? Both ways, you see both ways. And it varies with the form factor as well, not only chemistry. So it's very difficult to predict, but one thing sure, it's cheaper, it's cleaner, and it provides better capacity to use natural graphite. So it will always be a blend. It will always be both. You just need to really understand what the customer wants.
Okay. Yeah, understood. Okay. And now if we move towards a few of our questions from our registrants and also attendees, one of the common themes throughout the webinar and also with the submitted questions prior were around tariffs. And I know you did touch on it briefly. I guess what everyone wants to know is what is and what will be the impact on Trump tariffs on graphite, on the company, on the mines, on the nodes. I know you've mentioned during your presentation the 25% on graphite in China. What will be the impact on North America and your sort of vision on the business itself?
Yeah, that's a very dynamic question, as you can imagine. Every week it's a different portrait, I would say. But so what we saw is Trump initially wanted really to go against Canada and Mexico and charge a flat tariff to both economies, and probably was told internally, yeah, maybe not is a good idea. And the switch over the weekend is instead of doing like country targeted tariff, is going on application. So now he's targeting aluminum and steel. And in the first version of his tariff, graphite was excluded 5%. It was called an energy resource. It was more 10% targeting because he recognized that critical minerals is quite key. So 10% was the target. However, now we don't see when they will go application per application that he will never charge a tariff on something that it's either China or us really at this point. So, and that's a bit what our customer, when we talk with them, that's the vision that they share. They don't believe that in 2028, there will still be a tariff on critical minerals coming from Canada, especially, that's the reason fundamentally why they invested in our project. And it takes a long time to materialize this investment into a real production of graphite. It was the uncertainty on the tariff coming from China. So it worked a little bit. What was the intention behind the 25% against China and now the new 10%? It worked because now they are investing in allies country like Canada for building supply chain. So we don't believe that those impact will be important. But for sure, our third customer. So now for the first time, the cell maker in Canada, they also have incentive to buy from us. So that's very important. In the past, cell makers in Canada, they didn't have tariff on Chinese graphite. But now they have an incentive to purchase from us locally. So that's good. So you should see some action around that. So there's large plants getting built in Canada on this side of the border. And both our government and those cell makers now need to secure locally to us. So we see an opportunity in there to for our government to really aggressively finance our project to make sure we stimulate our economy. We will buy for $60 million of steel in our project. So for sure, the steel maker who need it now, it's a good time because they need those kind of orders. So it's understood by our government, and we are very dynamically talking with Quebec, Canadian government, and our customer to make it like an opportunity to finance more quickly our project.
Yeah. Okay. Fantastic. Another, I guess, a bit more of an unpredictable question, but maybe you can provide a bit more insight is there a timeline of FID completion that for the company, and obviously also fully funded loans I can see here in the chat as well. Yeah, do you want to go into that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say it's ASAP. Everybody would like to do it as fast as possible, but there are critical things to do. So next step is to publish this feasibility study. And in parallel of the publication of the feasibility study, the technical advisor to the lenders are already at work looking at all details to make the report to the lenders about how sound is this feasibility study and where they see the risk. And it will tell a bit the cost overrun facility that is necessary for the project, and it will feed into the lending process approval. So this is really on the critical path right after we file our feasibility study. So how long it will take to make all those lenders comfortable with the feasibility study and all the offtake that we have already, and confirming that the customers are making their second round as planned. So all this kind of work, everyone is around the table, everyone is well aware of what we're doing, but it's just a matter of, having those committee closing up. So it's difficult to put a precise timeline, but 2025 will be very active until we close that, and then we hand over to our fantastic construction team this project so they can deliver on time and on budget.
Yeah, of course, very unpredictable. I've got an interesting question here in the chat from Alan. Are you working on any deals with other industries besides batteries, for example, weapons, defense, or pencils? I don't know. Do you want to provide a bit of insight on that?
Yeah, so I've mentioned that we're sending 100,000 ton concentrate to the battery plant in Bécancour. But in Bécancour, at the battery plant, we have the ability to provide concentrate or advanced product to specific markets. So yes, indeed, in the last 5 years, we qualified our concentrate to high margins but lower volume businesses going in all the things that you've mentioned. Pencils is one, but there's a primarily like foil for iPhone, for electronics, that is quite an interesting business. Fuel cell, refractory bricks, all of that. All customers in North America that are not so price sensitive, but they are willing to pay a price, but this is like 20,000 ton of our business maximum. Between 15 and 20,000 ton of concentrate will be sold in those higher margin businesses, but lower volume. And I would say 80% of the concentrate will be transformed into anode material for 3 customers, basically. The 2 we have, and a third one that should be announced hopefully in the next few months. Yeah.
Perfect. Fantastic. Okay. And I guess my last question, which I tend to ask a lot of my a lot of the CEOs that I have webinars with, is Eric, what is the most exciting part of the business for you going forward? If you look at 2025 and the outlook, what gets you out of bed and what excites you about the company?
Yeah, what excites me is to see how important our project is for our economy here in Canada, but it's very important for the US partners we have as well. But our Prime Minister, when he did the speech on tariffs, and he spoke about critical minerals again yesterday, he said that Mr. Trump wanted to annex Canada to be the 51st state because the US want our critical minerals, and there's not many projects like NMG that is advanced like that. So understanding the importance for our employees, our communities, and our customer and our community as a whole is very fun to wake up in the morning and work on this project for sure. Yeah.
Of course. Well, Eric, thank you very much on behalf of myself and ShareWise for joining us here today. especially in the evening over there in Canada. It's been very insightful. I'm sure our attendees got a lot of information out of it, and we all look forward to seeing the progress this year for Nouveau Monde Graphite.
Great. Thanks for having me, Harry, and a happy rest of summer. Lucky you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you all.